We've been waiting for this all season long. The finale, the title decider, under the lights here in Abu Dhabi. It's lights out, away we go, and Hamilton gets a decent start, and he's already ahead of Max Verstappen. There's a bit of jockeying going on between Tsunoda and Ricciardo. Hamilton leads into the first corner. Norris goes wide. Sergio Perez slips through into third place. There comes Carlos Sainz, but it's Hamilton out in front. The medium tyres working well for him as his teammate Valtteri Bottas challenges the Ferrari. Into the hairpin we go now. Hamilton leads Bottas, leads Perez, then leads Norris, then the two Ferraris of Sainz and Leclerc. It is a dream start for Lewis Hamilton.
Yes, the only good news there for Red Bull is at least Perez is up there, but for the second consecutive weekend, the Red Bull did not get off the line very well.
This three abreast going into the turn 9 hairpin. Oh, and there Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton almost coming together. Hamilton has to go off the track. The Dutch fans roaring in the background. Lewis Hamilton in the lead, but will he have to give out the place?
Yes, of course he will, but the problem he's got is Perez is right on Verstappen's tail.
Yes, he gave that back.
Verstappen wants that place back, and he wants that place back right now.
What Max should do is back up a little bit and make sure Perez is right on his gearbox for when Lewis inevitably has to give that place back. Verstappen had to do that lunge.
So behind then, the lunge was on with Norris and Sainz and Leclerc. Sainz in 4th, Norris 5th, Leclerc in 6th, out in front. Hamilton still has the lead from Max Verstappen, from Sergio Perez, and at the end of lap 1, Hamilton's advantage over Verstappen is 1.1 seconds.
Push me off track.
Yeah, copy. We're happy with the gap that you've reinstated.
Oh, well, so Mercedes then tactic here is, okay, you haven't gained a lasting advantage. So the stewards will be looking at that. You've re-established the gap. Not quite sure I can see that. You re-established the gap that you had before you went off. Well, they were side by side when they went off.
We did wonder whether the stewards would need to get involved this weekend by courtesy of that moment down at turn 7. Surely they need to get involved to make a decision one way or another. But it's Hamilton out in front. Will he have to give the place back, or will he keep the lead?
I think that's clear cut for me anyway, but we're talking team play here with Red Bull 2nd and 3rd. Valtteri Bottas has now dropped down to 8th place.
He was having an early battle, wasn't he, with Yuki Tsunoda. Tsunoda's got ahead of him. Bottas not in play to help his teammate, who's going to have to try and win this the hard way. Now, this the run down. Verstappen a long way back, lunges into the apex. They do touch, and Hamilton has to take to the escape road. Did Verstappen lunge correctly and fairly? Will the stewards rule in Verstappen's favour there, or was that an opportunist move that was never, ever going to be on? Will they decide that way?
It was late, but the door was open and Max stayed on the racetrack.
No investigation necessary, say the stewards. Derek Warwick, former Grand Prix racer, Gary Connolly, very experienced steward, Felix Holter completing that particular trio. They've got bags of experience in the stewards room, and they've decided no investigation necessary. Well, it's like Brazil. Turn 4, there was no investigation necessary that day either.
That's the card they played, and so we're back as we were then, 1.4 seconds behind Max Verstappen. Red Bull, I think, will be on the blower to race control to question that one. But that's, with all of the information they've got available to them, what they see, the different camera angles, there we go.
Go ahead, Jonathan.
So, I've just seen it again. Max is ahead at the apex.
Jonathan.
Stays on the track.
Jonathan, he's forced him out there. That's why we asked him to give back all of the advantage.
Lewis has left the track. And, oh, you told him to give back all the advantage?
All the advantage was already given back prior to the first lap ending.
Oh, I'm not sure we agree, but understood.
No problems.
So in the eyes of the stewards then, Lewis Hamilton slowed down enough to give back some of the extra meters that he gained when he went off the track, and that was fair. There's race director Michael Massey. That was fair in their opinion. 1.5 seconds now, the gap.
Well, I call these things as I see them. Doesn't seem to matter whatever you say. One of the teams is unhappy with you, but I don't see that the gap was the same.
Okay, mate, so just get your head down. No investigation on the shortcuts or the advantage that he's gained in terms of gaps, so let's just get on with this and win it on track, mate.
That is incredible. What are they doing there?
Because they were side by side when the incident happened, and even into the braking zone, so I don't think the gap was ever given back, but that's what the stewards have decided. They're the referees, and I think that's wise advice there to young Max Verstappen in terms of, right, don't get angry, get even. Get on, you know, just focus on the race ahead now.
Well, we wondered, didn't we? Was it going to be turn one where Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton potentially came together? We lasted 6 corners until they came together. Our first controversial moment of this race, and possibly not the last either, as Hamilton takes to the runoff area, stays ahead of Verstappen. The stewards say no investigation, no penalty to be applied. Now we can get back on with the racing.
Yeah, critically, the stewards feel that because Max slid sideways, he pushed Lewis out of play. But look at that, the Red Bull of Verstappen just barely moved initially, did it? It bogged down on him. And there is then Perez taking 3rd place as Lando Norris goes wide, comes back in, doesn't gain any advantage. And you can see Bottas falling behind the Ferrari as well.
Got squeezed a bit, didn't he?
Really, really low revs there for Lewis in the Mercedes, and just took off 1/10 of a second better on the reaction time, just about finds enough grip. And look at that lovely space in front of him. So yeah, I'm going to call it the same way. I think Max has got in there, he's got into the apex, he stayed within the white lines of the racetrack, and look at the gap Lewis has pulled out front there. So I'll stand by that, but that's not what the stewards think.
This is the view from Lewis Hamilton's cockpit as he sees Max Verstappen coming at him at a rate of knots. But it is very much like Brazil. There was no penalty given in Brazil for that turn 4 incident. Max Verstappen lunged late on that day, and the stewards on that day decided that it was a fair move. What they've decided here, once again, it was a fair move from Verstappen. Hamilton gave enough time back, so it was honours even at the end of this skirmish.
But the door was open and he drove through it. And he stayed on the racetrack. He was leery in Saudi Arabia last weekend when he arrived sideways and out of control. And Lewis made an attempt, and that's why Max had to give the place back. But Lewis came back on the track within the corner and made a reasonable effort, having been pushed out of the way, to get on the track.
Ted Kravitz, very good evening to you.
Hello, Crofty. I didn't think it was going to get this controversial this early. Hello, Martin. Hello, everyone. I didn't know, but looking down from where I am in the pit lane across to the Red Bull pit wall, Christian Horner might as well have steam coming out of his ears. I understand he's been on the radio speaking directly to the race director, Michael Massey, to put his point of view. Maybe we'll hear from him in a second of what he had to say, but this is a result of Brazil with the FIA not clamping down on these things. When you start to leave interpretation into it rather than a hard and fast rule, you get situations, confusing situations that would have been clear-cut in the past decisions.
On board with Charles Leclerc, is currently running 6th, but while we watch from the cockpit of the Ferrari, let's head down to the Red Bull pit wall. Christian Horner is with us. Christian, please, your reaction to the no action by the stewards.
We're a little bit shocked at that because apparently Lewis gave his advantage back, which we failed to see yet. So, you know, as you can imagine, we're not best pleased.
Is this what goes around comes around, Christian, with turn 4 Brazil and into some first corners in earlier races?
No, it's a total lack of consistency. So, you know, we're disappointed with it, but focus on the race now, and yeah, we've got to do it the hard way.
Christian, there will be a lot of people watching Formula One for the first time ever. When they're presented with a no action for one incident, no action for another, they'll find it hard to believe that's a total lack of consistency.
Well, you know, the race director made it very clear before the race that you had to stay within the white lines. Max did that. You know, Lewis gained an advantage by going off track. He didn't concede it. He didn't give anything back, so that was our position. But anyway, we're focused on the race, and still a long way to go.
Christian, thanks ever so much for joining us. We appreciate your instant reaction there. That's while we were talking to Christian, we saw Sebastian Vettel and Lance Stroll having a race all by themselves. 14th for Vettel, 15th for Stroll.
Go ahead.
Michael, we still don't understand it. That was a hard, aggressive pass by Max, but Max stayed fully on the track and he was ahead at the apex. He did everything right, he stayed on the track. At some point, the second car has to back out.
Jonathan, the stewards have reviewed it and determined that all of the lasting advantage was gained, and that Max forced that position there. So they've said that they have reviewed it but are not investigating it.
Meanwhile, Lewis Hamilton now 2 seconds out in front from Verstappen, Perez, Sainz, Norris, Leclerc, Tsunoda, Bottas, Ocon and Ricciardo. We've got 3 world champions with us on Sky Sports F1 this weekend. Damon Hill, Jenson Button and Nico Rosberg. Nico, what's the champions' view?
Oh my goodness, so difficult. I think it's okay what they've done. Max was a little bit too lungy and too aggressive, forcing Lewis out too strongly. Even though he had the right to the corner there because he was massively ahead, you know, but still. And then I would also say, though, that Lewis didn't give back everything that he gained. So there's like, oh, it's tough, but I think it's okay like this.
Yeah, I tend to agree with what Nico said. I think when you look at it back, you know, you have to say that Lewis had to basically move out of the way because otherwise he's going to collide with Max, who made a very uncompromising, very late lunge, which left no room for Lewis to make any accommodation. He had to leave the track. But I have to say, I am surprised they didn't say, give the place back, because, you know...
Yeah, totally. I actually agree with you, Damon. It was a very late lunge, but it was always going to happen. Lewis knew he was coming. And he pushed Lewis off the track, I guess, but he stayed on the track. And I'm struggling to understand the regulations right now because obviously in Brazil there was no penalty, but they both drove off the circuit, whereas Max stayed on the track this time.
Gentlemen, thanks ever so much. I think Jos Verstappen's also struggling to come to terms with this. He just walked out the back of the Red Bull garage as Hamilton continues then on lap 8 in the lead of this race. We've had a big controversial moment and we'll be talking about this, I'm sure, for a long time to come.
Yeah, let's park that for now. What's interesting here...
Yes, let's park that for now.
Actually
on
has a little...
lap 8 of 58, where they're all struggling to understand the rules of the sport. All former world champions of the sport. Brundle, no, not you. Hill, Rosberg, Button. Oh, and we don't know. Let me tell you, if you are ahead as you get to the braking zone for the corner, that is your corner. The car that's behind has to yield. They have to put their foot on the brake. If you lunge up the inside on a collision course for the other car and they have to take evasive action, you are in the wrong. That's not your corner. You have to be at least halfway alongside as you get to that braking zone. You weren't halfway alongside Max Verstappen. Once again, you did a late lunge, which isn't allowed. This is the rules of engagement of Formula 1. They're for the safety of every competitor. Rules that all competitors should be abiding by because they are the parameters for competition. Quite simple. Lewis Hamilton would have been hit had he have not jumped out of the way of Max Verstappen's car. That's not acceptable. You shouldn't have to take evasive action. Therefore, no penalty, carry on. The only penalty would be a warning to Max Verstappen for driving like that. My explanation took about a minute. Theirs took 8 laps. Let's contrast that with this one. The season opener.
Yeah, they've dropped Bottas by 16 seconds. It is very much between these two magnificent racing drivers. And I guess he's going to have to try and stay in touch. He's got DRS down this part and then stay in touch, be neat and tidy and come off the final corner as close to Lewis Hamilton as he can. And then he's got a chance.
Max Verstappen, still a very young man at the age of 23, but this is his 120th Grand Prix. He's got bags of experience, so it's not like he's going to make a rash move at the wrong time here. He'll pick the right moment for it, and will that right moment come down the main straight?
Giovinazzi's looming into view as well, but this was the critical exit for Verstappen. He'll get DRS. He's still a good way behind.
Here he comes. I've got no rear, no grip, says Lewis Hamilton. He's looking in his wing mirrors to see what's happening at the rear. It's Max Verstappen coming his way. Hamilton moves to the middle of the track, forces Verstappen wider at turn 1 and positions that Mercedes beautifully. But is that only temporary from Lewis Hamilton? Can he now hold Max Verstappen up as they head towards turn 4? Hamilton's going to force Verstappen the long way round. By the time they get to the corner, he's about about a third of a car in front. By the time they get out of the corner, he's a whole car in front. Max Verstappen is ahead of Lewis Hamilton.
But will Hamilton be complaining because he took the position whilst off the racetrack?
Is that gaining an advantage in the way that the stewards would be looking at it? Did Lewis Hamilton force him over that way in defence? Did he have to leave the track, Max Verstappen? Or will the stewards say, no, that was unfair?
Apparently Verstappen just had a tyre on the curb. Hang on, what's going on? No, he's giving it back to him. He's giving it, he didn't. Sorry, I misheard my radio call there. He's giving it back because he took the position off the racetrack.
Right, so Verstappen is going to have to try again here, and that will have been an instruction. The teams, I'm sure, would have been onto race control, and Michael Massey and the stewards who might have just said,
he's really struggling for grip there.
Yeah.
Critical slide there. He needs to be right on the back of the Mercedes into this final corner.
But he's not right on the back of this Mercedes, but he still will get DRS advantage. By the way, Sebastian Vettel, 10-second time penalty for causing a collision when he went into the back of Esteban Ocon at the corner we're heading to now. Turn 1, 3 laps to go, and we're riding on board with Max Verstappen. Lewis Hamilton still out in front. Verstappen pulls to the inside, can't get ahead under braking now.
No, but did you see there, the Mercedes was harvesting at the end of the straight, harvesting electrical power, and Verstappen getting a little bit clumsy now, sliding around too much, a little bit over-eager. But if that...
I thought he's now an experienced motor racing driver. He's not going to do anything rash. You just told us that about a minute ago. For those of you that are able to listen, to process and to think, you'll be able to listen to everything you've just heard from Brundle, from Crofty, from those former Formula One drivers, and understood the narrative that you were being fed. You were fed it from race 1 of the season. I'm going to do a presentation which is going to take 3 or 4 videos due to the amount, the volume, the sheer volume of what was spoken that you all need to hear. And you all need to hear the volume of it that convinced people of what was going on at Silverstone. But it actually started back here at Bahrain 2021. So this video is really just for reference material. Hopefully, I might need to refer back to this one, but you've now all heard the first 8 laps of Abu Dhabi, where they spoke solely about the notion of Lewis Hamilton doing something wrong. We come to Bahrain. Did Lewis push Max off the track there? Was that Lewis's fault as well? I suggest if you have the opportunity to, you watch both incidents. You see what available room was on the track for Lewis Hamilton at Abu Dhabi. Had Lewis Hamilton have continued on the line that he was due to be on, would there have been a collision? Check that out. And then cross-reference that with Bahrain. What room on track was available for Max Verstappen? And did he need to go off the track? Was Lewis Hamilton on a collision course for him? Would Lewis Hamilton have connected with Max Verstappen had Max have stayed on the track? I suggest you look. I can't show it you because it will get blocked on copyright. But look at those incidents, compare and contrast, and work it out. That'll do for this one. Soon will be coming further exposure of the narrative that this show keeps feeding the strap-on, fanboy, brainless, fucking stupid minds that know nothing about the sport but are fanaticised, they're radicalised by this level of information. It is done by design. It is done for a narrative to promote one guy, to make a certain section of the population believe that one guy is the best thing that they'll ever see. It is disgusting. Anyway, we'll see you in a bit.